Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Coach Stephanie, and I am here today for the Tuesday Talks. I'm trying to get everything set up, so bear with me for just a moment as I'm making sure everything works. Okay. I've got Instagram going. I have hopefully Facebook and YouTube and everything going. Hey, Joy. Great. That means that is working. Hello, happy Tuesday evening. I'm Coach Stephanie. Coach Courtney and Chris, the Conways, are on vacation, and so I am covering for them today. I am one of the healthy meeting coaches, and I lead our meeting program. So I'm very excited to be here with you guys today to do the Tuesday Live. And today I want to talk about accountability because many of us get accountability kind of wrong. And so I want to make sure that after this meeting, you know a little bit more about how accountability can actually help you. So, when you hear accountability, what do you think of at first? Most people, when they think of accountability, think of being judged, getting caught, admitting that they failed, or facing the scale after a rough week. And I think we've all been there. We've had a rough week. It didn't quite go how we wanted it to. And then we feel like we messed up, and, it's just not a great feeling. And if we feel like we have failed or things haven't quite gone our way, we tend to avoid meetings, we stop tracking, and we tend to disappear. And that's why so many people experience, kind of falling off the wagon or, prolonged periods of it not going their way, is because we feel like accountability is something to be afraid of when it should be a tool that helps us. Okay, sorry. I'm kind of getting my notes a little bit different here so I can still see the chat. And the reality is, feeling like you failed or you shouldn't be coming back, that's not accountability. That is guilt. And today we want to redefine what accountability actually is. And I want to show you why it should help you move forward instead of you dwelling in the past. So the biggest accountability myth is that accountability is just about reporting your results. So, weighing in, did you track? Did you stay within your bites? Did you exercise? Did you drink enough water last week? Right? When we think of accountability, we generally think of like what we did in the past couple of days or the past week. But all of those questions ask about the past, and nothing we do right now can change the past. So the scale only tells us what happened in the past, but it doesn't tell us how to move forward necessarily. And weight loss happens in the choices that we're making right now. Being healthy happens in the choices that we are making today and tomorrow, not in the choices that we made last Monday or last Friday or last weekend. So if you think of two members that are both following the healthy plan, let's say both of them weigh in, and for both of them, the scale is up 2 points. But member one feels defeated. They end up closing the app and they're not tracking for 4 days afterwards because they're just so bummed out by having gained 2 pounds. Member two also has gained 2 points, but they decide to instead open their tracker and look back at their past week. And they're using this more as feedback and as data to take a closer look at their past week. And as they're doing that, they're noticing that they've had a restaurant meal, that most of their meals were high in sodium, that they didn't drink much water throughout the past week, and that they remember that they skipped their meal prep last week. So they know that the 2 pound gain on the scale is related to some of those choices that they have made in the past. And instead of feeling guilty about that, they make one adjustment. They ask themselves, like, what can I do different this week to help me get back on track or to continue making healthy choices? Both of them had exactly the same result, right? Those 2 pounds up, but they're handling it completely differently. And who do you think is going to have more success in the long run? The person who uses that data to make better choices going forward. So the weigh in here wasn't the accountability. It is what happened after the weigh in that was the accountability. The accountability was looking back at your past week and analyzing it and learning from it for the future. And not kind of letting that guilt overwhelm you. If you disappear because you feel guilty, that's not a good move forward. And that's why so many people end up yo-yoing or having such a hard time, is because they feel guilty after having a rough weekend, or when they didn't track, or when they didn't weigh. They end up skipping meetings. They're skipping that connection to other people. They're avoiding Facebook groups. And they tell themselves, I'm just going to start again on Monday. I'm going to start next month. I'm going to start after vacation. And what happens? One Monday turns into 2 Mondays, turns into a month, turns into 3 to 4 months, which then they realize, hey, I gained all of this weight back because I let this one weekend or this one decision kind of derail me. But accountability means that we use what happened to make better choices in the future. It doesn't mean admitting that we messed up. It means thinking about how we can get back on track faster. For example, real world example. If you use a GPS and you make a wrong turn, what do? You don't throw out the GPS and turn back around, or you don't stop at the side of the road and throw out the GPS. But rather, your GPS says, oh, well, hey, we missed our turn there. So take the next right turn, and then brings you back on your path. And that's how your weight loss should be as well. The mess ups that you did, the wrong turn that you took, should be information that helps you recalibrate into your future. And the next time you go down that road, you might know, hey, at this Dollar Tree, I needed to take a right, or at this gas station, I needed to take a right. So chances are you're not going to make that same mistake again, because now you know what happened, and then you can plan for it. So try using that same recalculating approach in your weight loss journey. And you do that with other people, right? When somebody comes into the Facebook group or into like a weight loss support group and they post that they had a terrible weekend, you don't tell them you should be ashamed of yourself. We only talk to ourselves that way. If it's somebody else, we're like, tomorrow is a new day, or just drink some water, or we encourage them to like try some meal prep. We oftentimes tell them, that's happened to me. It's totally okay. You can move on from that. We are supportive when other people are experiencing this. But when it's ourselves, suddenly it's the end of the world. And we need to really take the time to change our mindset here into more of a data focused mindset, and away from that guilt and that shame that does not serve us in this journey. One weekend does not undo months of progress that you've had in this journey. But if one weekend turns into several weekends, several weeks, several months, that's when your progress stalls. One weekend in the grand theme of things, in the grand theme of the rest of your life, does not make all that much difference. Even if you, for whatever reason, gain 2 pounds over a weekend, Those 2 pounds are not as bad as not getting back and continuing down that path and continuing to bring up the pounds. Those 2 pounds will come right back off once you get back to it. And Joy in the comments says it's all about having a positive mindset. And that is so, so true. Okay, sorry, just checking out the comments, making sure that I'm not missing anything. Cindy also said, you're rerouting your GPS. Do the same thing with your weight loss journey. This focus on curiosity can change everything. Instead, and you want to make sure that when you're asking yourself these questions, that you're not only positive, but that you're also, you know, caring with yourself. So don't ask yourself questions like, why am I so lazy and never work out? Don't say, why can't I stick to this? Or what's wrong with me? Those questions and the answers to those questions don't help you figure out what's going on. Instead, ask yourselves questions like, why was this difficult for me? What obstacles ended up showing up? Or what can I learn from the experience? This whole what can I learn from the experience is one of my favorite tools because life happens. We're all going to have situations where things don't quite go how we wanted them to. And sometimes there were things that we could have done to plan ahead. And sometimes there's not anything that we could have done to change what happened. But from every single situation, we can learn something. And if you think of what happened as a learning opportunity, you can easily get over or get away from that guilt mindset. So here's some examples. Instead of asking yourself or telling yourself, I have no self-control, try asking yourself or thinking of it in terms of, I skipped breakfast and then I was starving by dinner. Or if you're me, you might have skipped lunch. I tend to be really, really good about eating breakfast. And then I started working and I have meeting after meeting. And when I don't have a meeting, I check my emails and I try to actually get work done, right? And then lunchtime comes and goes. And then around like 3 p.m., I'm starting to get hungry, but I'm wanting to like finish up work. So at 4:30, I can go pick up my daughter. And then I go pick up my daughter and then I play with my daughter. And then it's time for my daughter to go to bed. And then when she's finally in bed at 8 p.m., I'm like, I am starving. I'll have dinner prepared. I just want food. And then it's super easy for me to say, husband, just go get us some fast food real quick because I am tired. I'm hungry. It's not a great situation. But I know that about myself. So one of the strategies that I now employ is to have quick and easy lunches available for me so that even if I only have like 5 minutes in between meetings, I can quickly grab a granola bar. Or if I have a meeting where I really just need to listen in, I go off camera and I will sit here and just have something to eat. But it's important for me to have that food available to me so that I can make a quick and easy decision because I don't have time to really like think about lunch. If I have to think about lunch, it's not happening. And I know that about myself. And when that happens, when I don't have time for lunch, I don't have a good dinner most of the time because I'm over hungry. And that happens to a lot of people. But as you can see, I have identified what are the problems, and there's multiple problems in that situation, right? Multiple things that I can do differently. And then I can attack those, and then I can make better choices in the future instead of just saying, oh, I just cannot do this, because that's not going to serve me in the long run, right? Joyce said, be an inspiration to others so that they can be successful. Yeah, absolutely. Joy is really, really great about being an inspiration. She like shares what she eats in our Facebook group for like the member meetings and everything. And it's a really great way for her to be inspiring and also help her in her journey, I'm sure. Another reframing, and I'm sure you have said that to yourself before is I blew my bites. Instead of saying, ugh, I blew my bites, try thinking of, oh, I went to Costco and I was hungry. And then I had a bunch of like little snackies. And then afterwards, I went in and I tracked them. And that's how I went over my bites because I didn't plan ahead before going to Costco. And then I had way too many little samples at Costco without really knowing what to expect bite wise. And then afterwards, when you are back home, and tracking, you're realizing, oh, that wasn't really a great decision. And next time you go to Costco, you know that. And you know to maybe have a protein bar or a granola bar or something before heading in there, and then being a little bit more picky about what things you tried at Costco. Instead of saying, I always fail on vacation, try saying something about, I never made a plan before vacation. And that makes all the difference. If you plan to have a good vacation and kind of think about what that looks like for you, vacation is going to be a lot easier. Vacation doesn't have to be an all or nothing. A lot of people think that they have to be either super strict on vacation or it has to be a free for all. But that's not true. We have a lot of members who have great success being somewhere in the in between, moving your bites to maintenance mode, focusing on your healthy habits instead of counting everything. Um, there's a lot of things that you can do that aren't just, being super strict or eating everything inside. I personally, when I go on vacation, I don't want to have to think about how many calories my food has. But I do know that one of the ways that I structure my meals on a day to day basis is to have half of my plate filled with either fruits or vegetables. Every single one of my meals needs to have fruit and vegetable. And ideally, it's about half of what I eat in that meal. And that's something I can very easily translate over into vacation. If there's a buffet, they usually have like salads or they have vegetables, and I can use that same trick. And without having to count calories, know that because I'm bulking up on vegetables that are lower in calorie but higher in volume, I'm probably not consuming as many calories as if I would skip the vegetables completely. Reframing these questions or these statements is all about finding the information to help you approach situations better in the future. And that is accountability. Tracking isn't about perfection. Tracking is about giving us more of that data. What did I actually eat? When did I eat? You might have days where you realize, like me, that you only ate breakfast and then you ate dinner. And your dinner might not have been that great of a choice. And then when you look back at your tracker, you might be like, it's because I skipped lunch. Or you might look back at your tracker and you realize you only had like a tiny little salad and that didn't end up filling you up that well. And that's why you kept snacking all throughout the afternoon. That's data. And data is helpful for us to learn. Without data, we're just guessing. And even an imperfect day of tracking will teach you something. So if you start tracking your breakfast and then by lunch you've forgotten about tracking and you don't track anything else throughout the day, that still tells you something about your day and you can make adjustments for it. Another thing, as we're talking about kind of reframing and that mindset and the importance of that mindset, is that I have tried, and it's really hard in our diet society, right? To stop thinking of it as starting over. Starting over kind of suggests that, you're needing to, that you don't have any of this previous data, right? That you're starting from scratch. And that's simply not true. If you have lost the weight and then, somehow over life, weight has crept back up, you still have that data from before, and that's invaluable. But by saying, oh, I'm starting over, you're kind of negating all of the work that you have done in the past. So don't think of it as starting over, but again, as course correction. A great example for this are airplanes. Airplanes constantly have to change their course, right? Airplanes never go from like A to B in a straight line. There's wind, there's weather, there's other airplanes. So they constantly need to adjust their course on their way to their destination. And that's what our weight loss journey is. For nobody, and I'm very confident in saying for nobody, weight loss is like going from point A to point B. All of us, have some ups and downs. And if you take out your healthy app and you look at your weigh-ins, you will see the ups and downs and the valleys of your weight loss journey. And that is 100% normal because we're just like airplanes. We're constantly adjusting our course based off of the weather and the situation. As long as you keep moving forwards to your destination, that's not a problem. It's when, you have to like swerve right and you're like, oh, we're just going to land the plane because we couldn't make it in a straight line. That's when you don't reach your destination, right? And successful people don't constantly restart. They adjust. And even if you've been on vacation for 2 weeks and on vacation things didn't go quite how you wanted it to, don't think of it as starting over. Just think of it as, we veered a little off the path. Let's get back onto the path. Let's get back to what we know works really well. So for healthy, for example, just make some small adjustments that can get you back onto track, like pre-tracking your dinner or when you're going to the grocery store, focusing more on protein-rich snacks, or just coming to a meeting, right? As I mentioned before, I lead the member meeting group. So I'm a big proponent of our member meetings, and just coming to the meetings can be so powerful. And you can be off camera in the background, don't say a word, like that's totally fine. But just showing up for yourself and getting that inspiration and hearing from other people that they are not perfect either, none of us are, is a really great way to kind of get back into the swing of things. Make small adjustments, not full life overhauls. I know when we're getting back on track, it feels really motivating for like the first week or whatever, but it can be just as motivating to make those small changes and see the difference that can have. And Joy said, track and move on. Tomorrow is a fresh start. Fully agree. So, real accountability, it looks like this. Step 1, you got to notice it. You got to notice what happened. Like, I've been snacking every afternoon for the past week. Step 2 is owning it. I made those choices. Not feeling guilty about it, but rather just, giving yourself ownership, because ownership is power. Being honest with yourself. It's not somebody else's fault. Nobody put those snacks in front of you. It's not your husband's fault because he's the one who purchased the snacks, even though that's not super helpful, right? But you're still the one who put the snack into your mouth. Nobody forced you into it. You made that decision. Own it and understand it. And then for step 3, adjust. Ask yourself, what would make tomorrow easier? For example, having a better lunch, telling your husband to hide his snacks so you don't see them, because maybe seeing them is what made it so hard for you. Maybe including more protein, maybe not having dinner prepared or easy dinners available for you might have caused you to snack more. Just, kind of think about what you can do, what you have learned, what you can do, what you can adjust. And then step 4, repeat that same process. Get as much data as you can, always take some time to, kind of think about how did it go? What worked really well? What can I improve? And constantly learning from it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get a little bit better every single day. Make a little bit of a better decision every single day. And that's going to be what moves you forward, much more than having 3 absolutely perfect days. And don't forget about your community. A lot of people get a little bit hesitant about community and support. You might feel like, oh, it's just somebody checking in whether I behaved, but real support looks a lot different. If you come to the meetings, we're not there to judge you. We've probably all been there before. And if you share your struggles with us, you will probably find out that most of us have been in that same situation, that most of us can relate to you, including the coaches. So support is more like your cheerleading team that also understands the struggle of it. It's somebody celebrating your first 5-pound loss. It's somebody reminding you that sodium can have a huge effect on the scale, because maybe you're talking about how the scale moved up and then somebody else shares about how they had a similar experience and they realized that they ate a lot of sodium that week. It means sharing recipes. So many great recipes have come out of our meetings. I've tried so many cool new things because somebody had mentioned it in a meeting, and that is absolutely one of my favorite parts of the meetings, is learning what other people are eating and doing in their day-to-day. We have people who come back from vacation having done really, really great, and that's a great way to learn. And we have people coming back from vacation being like, it did not work all that well. And we're all like, been there, done that. Welcome back, right? But you have that group that understands the struggle and is like, we are glad that you are here and you are not alone. So don't just disappear. Try to come back as soon as possible. So, to recap, our goal here in our weight loss journey is not to be perfect. It is about learning from the past so you can make better choices in the future. You want to become somebody who notices patterns, who learns from their mistakes, who adjusts what they're doing, and then keeps going. Don't let one bad decision derail you for the rest of your journey. Understand, it's part of the process. We have all been there. We have all messed up in one way or another. And you might think like, but nobody has ever messed up this big. I assure you, somebody has messed up that big before. And it is okay. Because as long as you learn from it and keep moving forward, it's going to be okay. This is a lifestyle. And I think it becomes really, really important to really internalize that. You're not just trying to get to a goal. This is going to be the rest of your life of making healthier decisions. So you're not going to be perfect for the rest of your life. Nobody can do that. There's always going to be days where it's easier and days where it's harder because life just happens. But what you make out of it, that's what matters. And by taking that information and making those adjustments, that's how you move forward on your journey. So don't end the day thinking about, did I mess up? But at the end of the day, take a couple of minutes. And I love using the notes section in your Healthy app for that, to really do some reflection on like how your day went. I like asking myself questions like, what went really well today? What did I learn today? What is something I struggled with today? And then out of that, kind of thinking about what's one thing that I can do better tomorrow or different tomorrow that will make it a little bit easier for me to stay on track. The people who succeed are not the ones that do not struggle. The people who succeed are the ones who take accountability as a learning opportunity and not as a punishment, and move forward because they've learned something from them messing up. And that way you can get a little bit better every single day. So, would love to hear in the comments as I'm hopping off, what is one small adjustment that you are going to make this week based off of what you might have learned from your past week? And I will be in the comments and I will be reading them and responding to them. But I always love hearing from the community. With that, I hope you have an amazing rest of your evening and week. And hopefully, I will get to cover for the Conways again soon and get to see you again. Bye.